Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where the special human shield operation continues. This day Ukraine celebrates two holidays: the Independence Day, which takes place on the 24th of August of 2026, and the Day of the National Flag. This holiday took place yesterday on the 23rd of August of 2026. And of course, the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, wanted to secure these two holidays and not allow the Russians to attack the territory of Ukraine, so the Ukrainians themselves would be able to feel the real independence. So that is why Zelensky called for Western leaders and leaders of different countries to come to Kyiv with the purpose to create something like a human shield. And according to information we have, yesterday the leaders of Lithuania, of Baltic states, of Finland, of Norway, of the United States of America, different leaders, representatives and delegations from different countries came to Ukraine, and all these people allowed the Ukrainians to secure the sky over Ukraine during the 23rd of August of 2026, because now we can summarize everything and we see that the Russians didn't attack the territory of Ukraine during the 23rd of August of 2026. Of course, there were attacks, there were explosions somewhere in the area of the Sumy region, somewhere along the line of combat contact, but the most important thing that the Russians didn't attack the city of Kyiv. So this is the first and the most important situation. Another important thing, and if you remember, yesterday we discussed that the Ukrainians could use the diplomatic shield to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia, and obviously this could be something like a real escalation, and the moment when the Ukrainians changed the game, changed the rules of this game. And we received this morning reports that the Ukrainians used the diplomatic shield and the Ukrainians attacked deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation, dealing significant damage. And as you know, today Ukraine celebrates the Independence Days, and of course the Russians don't have any other option but to retaliate. But the most important problem right now for Russians is that more leaders arriving on the territory of Ukraine, and today we received the report the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has arrived in Kyiv for Ukraine's Independence Day celebrations. This took place today. Western leader continues to gather in the capital, forming a diplomatic shield against potential Russian strikes during the holiday period. And furthermore, we received a report that today the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is going to authorize the transfer of classified data for the production of Scalp missiles to Ukraine. So this is a very important day for the Ukrainian side, as we can see. And we see that the Ukrainians between the 23rd and the 24th of August of 2026 attacked the territory of Russia, basically ruining the rules that have been established since the beginning of the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, and that were followed both by Russians and the Ukrainians during this period of time. But now we see that the rules of the game have been changed. Let's discuss everything in details, and let's talk about this massive attack. On the night of the 24th of August of 2026, the Ukrainians, according to different sources, launched basically hundreds of drones in the southern direction, and we start receiving reports that lots of missiles and drones were recorded through the Krasnodar region, through the area of the settlement by the name of Adygea, and explosions were also recorded through the state of Dagestan. So lots of explosions were recorded along this line, and once again the Ukrainians were attacking warehouses. And this morning and during the night we were receiving lots of updates on this matter. For example, when talking about the city of Krasnodar, this facility was reduced by the Ukrainians to ruins. And we have this video. As we can see, the explosions and attacks were taking place during the night, somewhere around at 1, 2 or 3 a.m. of the 24th of August of 2026. The city of Krasnodar is the nearest city, and this warehouse is the nearest to the territory of Ukraine when talking about every single warehouse that was attacked by the Ukrainian side. So that is why we start receiving videos from this area as early as possible. The sources reported that this facility was reduced to ruins. Then the Ukrainians continue moving further in the southeastern direction, and we start receiving reports that the Ukrainians attacked a warehouse on the territory of the city of Novosoloshine. So this territory was probably damaged, not destroyed, because this morning pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian sources reported that explosions were recorded, that drones were recorded over this area, but the Russians managed to repel this attack. Then the drones of the armed forces of Ukraine continued moving further in the southeastern direction, and this morning when the sun rose, we start receiving reports about attacks on this facility. As for this territory, we see that according to these videos, this warehouse was destroyed completely without any chances to repair it or to restore it. So as you can see, between the 23rd of August of 2026, between the 23rd and the 24th of August of 2026, between the day of the national flag and the independence days of Ukraine, the Ukrainians attacked deep inside of the territory of Russia, dealing significant damage and ruining one of the most important diplomatic rules between Russia and Ukraine that was established at the beginning of the conflict on Ukraine. Do not attack each other when foreign delegations come to the territories of each other. Later, we start receiving additional reports about the situation in Russia. This picture was published by pro-Ukrainian sources. As you can see, according to this source, according to this article, up to 5 warehouses, biggest warehouses of one of the most powerful companies, enterprises on the territory of Russia, have been hit since the beginning of the logistic war, and 3 of them were hit during the previous night. Also, we received this report. According to information we have, the Russian stock market declined at the start of the week. Some observers attribute the drop to drone strikes on ozone warehouses, but in reality that is unlikely to be the only reason. So the situation is quite difficult. The Russians didn't have any other option, and the Russians this morning began attacking the territory of Ukraine with missiles and drones as acts of retaliation. But the most important thing, that by the time I started making this video, the Russians didn't attack the territory of the city of Kyiv, where the main delegations are located. The Russians decided to attack the Odesa region, and this morning we start receiving reports that at least 2 big malls were completely wiped out by Russians. The sources reported that most likely the facility in the southern parts of the Odesa region was destroyed, this one, but yet we haven't received pictures or videos that could confirm this information. But from the other side, we start receiving updates, lots of updates from the mall to the north of the city of Odesa, and the sources reported that this facility was completely wiped out by Russians as a result of the morning attack that took place on the 24th of August of 2026 during the morning of the Independence Day of Ukraine. So the situation is quite critical. Furthermore, we received the report that the Russians have lots of missiles right now. The military experts reported that Russia still has enough Iskander ballistic missiles, Kyiv-23 ballistic missiles, and Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles accumulated in Bryansk, Kursk, Voronezh, and Rostov Oblast to carry out another medium to large-scale attack on Kyiv. So most likely that's due to the situation that is taking place right now through the southern parts of Russia, with these warehouses and with this attack during the Independence Day of Ukraine. Most likely when the Western delegations leave the territory of Ukraine, the Russians will carry out one of the biggest attacks on the territory of the city of Kyiv, and most likely this attack will start somewhere in the afternoon, or probably somewhere around at 7 or 8 p.m. of the 24th of August of 2026, and this attack will last until the morning of the 25th of August of 2026. So most likely in coming hours we'll see the retaliation from the Russian side. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. This morning, pro-Russian sources reported about the thing that we must expect additional changes on the ground through the area of the responsibilities of the group of forces East. The Russians reported that in coming hours they will announce about additional changes on the ground. Most likely today the Russians will report about control over the settlement of Dalinka, or about another village between the settlement settlements of Rizdvyanka and Zelene, so we are waiting for additional report published by the Russians and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. Meanwhile, the Russians continue bombing the city of Orekhov, trying to soften defenses of the armed forces of Ukraine in the area of the Russian offensive operation. I would like to remind you that several days ago the Russians launched their major offensive operation through the city of Orekhov. As a result of clashes during the first days, the Russians improved their position significantly through the southeastern parts of the settlement, and today we expect additional changes on the ground. As for the area of the responsibilities of the group of forces is, today pro-Ukrainian sources published a video how the Ukrainians, due to the day of the national flag, counterattack Russians in the area of the settlements of Novosoloshine and Lubitska, and as a result of attacks, several groups of the armed forces of Ukraine entered both villages and raised their flags. One of the flags was raised in this area, the second flag was raised in this area, but the sources reported that later the Ukrainians abandoned their positions through these villages and returned towards more reliable positions around the settlements. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Dobropillia direction. We expect additional changes on the ground today as well. During the previous 12 hours, pro-Ukrainian sources, pro-Russian sources and neutral mappers confirmed additional changes on the ground in this area. The Russians, as you can see, continue improving their positions around the settlement of Dobropillia, and these are the changes on the ground. The Russians, according to different sources, managed to establish complete control over the village of Dobropillia several days ago, and now we start receiving reports that from these positions the Russians began advancing in the southwestern parts of the city of Dobropillia towards the industrial zone, or the second citadel of the city of Dobropillia. There are two citadels. The first one is located in the central part of the settlement. We have multi-story building block, and the second one is in the southwestern parts. We are talking about this industrial zone. Though the Russians began offensive operation in this area with the purpose to take this part of the settlement under complete control. Furthermore, the Russians began advancing in the area of the villages of Novofyodorovka and Adygea, trying to continue their offensive operation towards the border between the Donetsk and the Dnipro regions. Furthermore, today we received a report that Russians also improved their positions in the pockets between the cities of Druzhkovka and Dobropillia. We're talking about these territories, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. But the most important thing is that today, most likely, several pro-Russian sources confirmed that the settlement of Kucheriv YAr was taken by Russians under complete control. So that is why we expect that today the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm control over this territory as well. And during the next video, we will discuss every single change, and we will discuss the colors we add according to reports we received from Minister of Defense and from other reliable sources. Furthermore, the Russians continue improving their positions to the south of the settlement of Druzhkovka, and these are the changes on the ground through this direction. The Russians right now are trying to maintain the lines between two rivers, between the river of Kazhenny Torets and Krivoy Torets. They're trying to cut these pockets to shorten the lines and then to begin the major battle for the settlement of Druzhkovka itself. Furthermore, the Russians, according to different sources, improved their positions to the east of the city of Kramatorsk, and according to these changes, the Russians answered to this dense network of the fortifications, and now most likely the Russians will try to take under complete control the strongholds to the east of the city of Kramatorsk. We are talking about this line. As for the northern direction, during the previous 12 hours, nothing special was recorded. The only thing we have are lots of videos published by pro-Russian sources of how Russians were attacking temporary deployment points and edge positions of the armed forces of Ukraine through the most northeastern parts of the Kharkiv region. Right now, the Russians intensify their attacks in the area of the settlement of Prikolotne, and very likely in coming days we might receive additional progress in the ground from this area as well. And that's it for the short video. The Military with Summary channel reminds us to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.